sum up these Olympic Games, we must tell the story as it happened. The truth is, in spite many years of planning, it was a bumpy start. And living through these Paris Games has elicited the realm of emotions that form the basis of the human experience. What was to be a most legendary of Olympics was instead a brutal reminder that sometimes you don't get your fairy tale ending.
Change the rule yesterday.
Wasn't announced.
Change the rule and then not say.
Like sometimes you work hard for something and you don't achieve it.
There was pain and disappointment. Desires went unmet, and at times, tempers flared. But simultaneously, we created history, unearthed icons, and met unlikely heroes. We found gold where none was expected. In spite of our differences, once again, sport has done its magic and unified a region, a task where many organizations have come up short. Our athletes made their way through obstacles and reminded us all in heroic fashion that behind the darkest of clouds, the sun awaits. Medals or not, they honored and recognized each other. For these games of the 33rd Olympiad, there were over 300 medal events, 32 diverse sports, and over 40 Olympic disciplines. But if there was an all-round medal for one single Olympic champion, it would hands down go to the human spirit, which gave a gold medal showing.
Our lives are made up of a series of special moments, big hearts, big talents, big prospects for the future. Our job now is to keep honoring the work of those who came before and assess what we are doing with the sporting generational wealth which we have so luckily inherited.
As a region, once again, we're at a crossroads where past, present, and future meet. Now, though life can best be understood backwards, we must live it forwards. Our level of pride at these Olympics is inversely related to the size of the nation.
We are one people, one Caribbean, one love.
We are one SportsMax. Au revoir.
Yes, thanks to Donald Oliver and Alex Jordan. They're filing their final report from Paris, the 2024 Olympic Games. So at the end of the 18 days of competition, global superpowers, the USA and China finished with 40 gold medals each. The Americans, though, finished on top of the overall table with a total of 126 medals, with China in second on 91. Only 4 English-speaking Caribbean countries secured medals, Jamaica with 1 gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze, finishing 44th in the medal table. St. Lucia, courtesy of Julien Alfred's gold in the women's 100 metres and silver in the women's 200 metres, finished 55th. Dominica, the next best English-speaking country, Caribbean country, finishing 62nd in the table with 1 gold, courtesy of Tia Lafond. In the women's triple jump, Grenada were 80th in the table with their 2 bronze medals through Anderson Peters and Lyndon Victor. The Paris Games are over, and joining Leighton and I on set to recap the highs and lows of the Games are Paris Games analyst Chris Taylor. So we just heard Alex and Donald sum up the 18 days of competition quite neatly, and I'm sure it was as exhilarating for them as it was for our viewers who enjoyed, Leighton, the past 2.5 weeks of Paris 2024.
Yeah, in many ways, I think there are some historic moments for Grenada and, of course, Dominica. Outstanding first medals for those countries, which we expect, many of us expected. But then, when you look at some of the unexpected medals, Roger Stone Olympic record, when you look at Rajendra Campbell, the shot put, Shanika Ricketts getting Jamaica's first ever medal. Well, Chelsea Hammond actually got a medal, but that, this in real terms, the first opportunity to win actually in the field of play was Shanika Ricketts. there's a lot of history that took place at the Olympic Games for the Caribbean. So it was more of a bittersweet moment, a bittersweet experience for the Caribbean. But I'm sure overall, I think it was a positive outcome given the fact that we've seen medals for the first time for countries who had never won Olympic medals before. Jamaica is used to winning medals because of the history of since 1948. The thing is that there are a lot of Jamaicans who are disappointed because the athletes didn't live up to the expectations. We'll get more into that, obviously, a little bit later on. But overall, I think it was a very, very positive experience for the Caribbean because it shows that there's emerging talent coming from across the region, and not just talent, but exceptional talent as well.
Yeah, and Chris, I heard the Wee Paris team recapping the 18 days of competition yesterday, and they started, of course, from the beginning with the opening ceremony, which for many had been a little below par. But the general feeling was that the crescendo at the end yesterday almost made up for whatever shortcomings people had experienced with the opening ceremony.
Yeah, magnificently, and they always say you're as good as your last performance. So from that perspective, I thought Paris and Los Angeles got it exactly right. I thought beautiful moments, not only the performances from the United States stars in terms of entertainment, but the lights, the atmosphere, the fact that the athletes were involved as well and hyped, to say the least, about that closing ceremony, showed that they enjoyed the experience even with the hiccups along the way. I also thought that the transition, the handover to LA was remarkably done. No surprise, as the US are probably the leading market in terms of film and production and those things. So they like a big scene, and going to the nature of film in Hollywood, you know, no surprise that they chose Mr. Impossible to bring it off in Tom Cruise. Yeah. And I mean, those dramatics jumping off the top, you know, Donald Oliver spoke about that. And that was very entertaining as well. And then the choice of artists as well. You know, obviously Annie loved the Red Hot Chili Peppers. And, you know, others as well, Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre, two stalwarts of the rap business back from the 80s. So, which was the last time, in fact, the 80s was the last time that Los Angeles hosted the Olympics in '84. So bringing everything together, I thought, was great direction, great production, and yeah, a fitting end to Paris 2024, in style, as the French like to say.
Yeah, and before we talk about, Leighton, the disappointment, like what Trinidad and Tobago and the Bahamas would experience with no medals, and most Jamaicans thinking they were below their normal levels, a narrative that I've continued to push on this show about the Caribbean punching above its weight. We're talking about Dominica and St. Lucia, countries with just over 100,000 population and just under 100,000 population, winning gold medals at the Olympic Games, and just reiterating that in the Caribbean, whereas Bahamas and Jamaica have led the way with Olympic medals, there's no doubting the quality and talent that exists right throughout the Caribbean. And for the Eastern Caribbean to embrace the sort of success that Lafon and Julien Alfred had, I think it was always coming, and it's just grand to see it finally happening.
And obviously something that we talked about for years, the reality that what I think this actually brings to the forefront now is the fact that finally, I think the Caribbean is beginning to see that the business of sport is very important to their own images. You remember the Prime Minister of St. Lucia, the Prime Minister of Dominica spoke about how now the visibility that these athletes have given their countries. This is what we've always been saying. When Usain Bolt won in Berlin in 2009, his media market value was $389 million US was calculated at. That's about 10 to 15 times the amount of money spent by the Jamaica Tourist Board each year marketing their Jamaican tourism product. So what I think we're beginning to see now, Lance, is an understanding of what it means when we develop our talent. Because, look, talent is not unique to Jamaica, it's not unique to the Bahamas, but what it lacks was the resources to develop and to get to the level where we're now tapping into the resource of the country, which are its people. Julien Alfred, the lone medalist from St. Lucia, but they've never done it before, right? Tia Lafon, I mean, you think about how significant that is for a country of 70,000 people, for their first Olympic medal to be a gold medal. We're beginning to understand that the talent is spread far and wide. What it lacks is resources to develop. And I think what we've seen at these Olympic Games is the manifestation of the reality that once you begin to invest in our athletes, then the results will start to pay off, no matter how small you are. And we've seen that. But I mean, I don't think people even appreciate the reality of it, because 70,000 people, there are communities in Kingston where 70,000 people live. And that's the entire nation of Dominica. So you're looking at a situation where had they begun to invest earlier, maybe they would have had more Taylor funds. And now that she's won, it's going to inspire a lot more young ladies, a lot more young men from that country to pursue those dreams, because they now see that it's a reality. And it's a good thing for the Caribbean, because these games have shown what is possible.
Yeah, and of course we have to remember that in Tokyo, Bermuda won a gold medal as well.
Absolutely.
Through Flora Duffy, and their population is about 64,000 in the triathlon. So impressive there from some of the smaller Caribbean countries. Just to me, illustrating and emphasizing the fact that there's real talent right through the length and breadth of the Caribbean. Jamaicans, Chris, are disappointed with the 6-medal haul that they have had. But I would suggest that if Elaine Thompson-Hira, Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and Shericka Jackson are injured, Jaden Hibbert is injured and doesn't perform as well as he should have in the triple jump, I don't think the 6-medal haul is below par if you consider the fact that the team went in short-staffed.
Well, you have to take the positives out of everything. And as I said, Jamaica has not shown this kind of performance in the field before. So that's a positive for Jamaica, yes, because we've been spoiled with the talents of before. The expectation is that Jamaica is going to win a lot more medals on the track. It just didn't happen in this Olympics. As you said, injuries plagued the athletes, unfortunately, which is something that you can't really script. But yeah, in terms of the field, I think amazing performances, and it just shows that the support is necessary in all facets of sport, all facets of the track and field arena. And, many of the athletes, are complained about not necessarily getting the support they needed, but this was proof that there's talent all around in terms of Jamaica and the Caribbean. I mean, we talk about Eastern Caribbean, but let's narrow it even more as a cricket man myself. It's the Windward Islands specifically that really dominated on that side. Dominica, St. Lucia, Grenada. 3 of the Windward Islands, with St. Vincent getting to a final in the 800. I thought that was massive. Shafiqa Maloney.
Just missing out on
a national record, smashing it, and was just maybe a couple steps away or a spike away from executing a podium finish. So it just shows that, as you said, with investment, Taylor Fund is 30 years of age. So it means that Dominica have been investing in her for a while. It wasn't immediate success at 19 years of age like some of the others. So this is a case where they have backed their athlete over time because they have seen the talent. And to see her bring it to fruition is amazing. And as I said, that's a message to the rest of the Caribbean that, we have the ability, investments can be made. And we're diverse as well. We're seeing athletes turn up in the Caribbean in events that wasn't thought of before, 800 meters, 1,500 meters. So it's not only about the sprints. And that is why, we have to look at the entire package and say, yes, obviously there's disappointment. Trinidad and Tobago didn't get a medal. That's a big disappointment for them. Excellent performance by Jareem Richards and company. But
outstanding.
Jamaica didn't get the medals they were expected. Bahamas had their 2 major athletes injured. But it has shown in other areas that, look, we can make up for it here. We can step up to the plate and deliver. And I think going into LA, that's something that we need to look at in that 4-year period.
And just one quick point, Lance. Also, one of the things that we're overlooking is also, you mentioned the injuries to the big 3 from Jamaica. It's also a period of transition for Jamaica as well, because Shelly is 37 years old, Shericka is 30, Elaine Thompson is 32. When you look at the bulk of the team, Tina Clayton is 19 years old. She's going to be 20 on the 18th, whenever that is. We're looking at Akira Nugent, who is 23 years old. Kishane Thompson is 23 years old. The bulk of the team that went into these Olympic Games are under 25 years old. So you're looking at new talent emerging to replace the old guard, so to speak. So, and to the point that you made, Lance, Jamaica would have lost 4 or 5 medals to injuries alone.
Well, that's the point I was trying to make. So the fact that they got 6 medals, in Tokyo they had 9 medals, in Rio they had 11 medals. So without those injuries, it is reasonable to expect that the team would have collected the normal...
Nikisha Price
they would have challenged for more, for sure.
Nikisha Price has stomach virus. You can't prevent those things.
She's the world leader.
Yeah, she was the world leader going in.
And the areas that we got medals in, you probably wouldn't have written them down initially for them to execute that, especially Estonia.
A quick comment. Chris, you touched on the Bahamas and Trinidad and Tobago, TNT, for the 2nd Olympics in a row. No medals for them. Prior to Tokyo, you would have had to go back to 1992 when they were medalless. The Bahamas were without a medal this Olympic Games for the first time since Seoul in 1988. So whereas other parts of the Caribbean celebrated unprecedented success, there are some countries that suffered the disappointment of no medals again. So they will have to address what has gone wrong for them, TNT, for the second Olympics in a row. And the Bahamas, who had injury issues because Shaunae Miller-Weber, their outstanding 400-meter champion in Rio and Tokyo, was hurt, wasn't able to perform at her best. And Stephen Gardner, who is
defending champion too.
Yeah, and almost unbeatable on his best day, had to pull out of his event. So they had issues as well that were unfortunate.
And when you look at it from a Trinidad and Tobago perspective, yes, the Bahamas would have expected those two to deliver. I don't think looking at the Trinidad and Tobago team, they necessarily would have written down a lot of medals in their events. As I said, there's a transitionary period for them. You look at their relay teams, very young components there. But I think one of the persons that they probably would have written down a medal for exactly was their cyclist, Nicholas Paul, world record holder, silver medalist at the World Championships. And unfortunately for him, he didn't deliver in the way expected. Probably they might have even expected a couple of their swimmers to transition, but I don't think they would have expected any medals per se, other than Paul. And as you said, as Leighton said, you know, Jamaica going through a transitionary period. I think Trinidad and Tobago over the last maybe 2 Olympics are going through that. So that is something for them to look at. Where are their 20-year-olds now, and how close are they to producing final performances and world-breaking performances?
Yeah, because Trinidad has Tara Gittins, for example, a promising long jumper out of Texas A&M through Texas as well. She didn't make it to the Olympics this time, but clearly she's someone who is on the cusp of breaking into the Olympic team. And of course, it's a concern for Trinidad especially, because we've heard Atto Bolden, that is, talk about the ineffectiveness of the N3A's leadership in that country. I mean, they have a lot of young talent coming through. Soleil and Sana Frederick,
yes,
and others coming through, yes. And of course, Bertrand. I mean, there's a lot of young talent coming through. The work now has to begin to help to develop this talent and push them further along. So by the time LA comes around, they'll be ready to represent Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, so a lot has happened in the past couple of weeks at the Olympic Games in Paris. A lot to reflect on, and for some parts of the Caribbean, a lot to celebrate. I know that Julien Alfred is expected to compete in some European meets in the next couple of weeks. So the big homecoming celebration that they're planning for her in St. Lucia, that is on hold until her arrival in St. Lucia is confirmed. We go to break. We'll be back with more on the SportsMax Zone after this.